Am I considering digital transformation? I simply digitize all my analog things. I'll get rid of my file cabinets. Is that what I'm calling transform? That's not really transformation. That's just shifting formats. That's shifting from an analog to a digital format. But as you said, now I've got some data and some other things there that I can work with and have access to because it's digital.
Hello world, this is BetterTech, a podcast where we chat with some of the most successful leaders about the latest industry developments. So join us as we explore the world reliant on tech. This episode is brought to you by Tkxel, a leading software development company. Check them out at tkxel.com. As we explore how your business can leverage the transformative power of AI, our guests today include Doug Thompson, AI Ambassador at Microsoft, and Umair Javed, CEO-Tkxel, to talk more about how to have an effective AI strategy. Welcome, Doug and Umair, and let's start the episode.
Doug, welcome on this episode of our BetterTech podcast. I'm Umair. I'm the founder and CEO of Tkxel, and we are in the service as well as product launched in the software space. And you are Doug Thompson, a Microsoft AI ambassador. So why don't you tell us about yourself a bit?
Sure. The AI ambassador is sort of one of those honorary roles that I get to go around and talk about AI and some of the stuff that we're doing with that. My day job is working on the education team as a technology strategist. So I'm sort of they used to call us pre-sales engineers, but I know all of our products and I talk business and I talk all these other things. So I'm sort of that unicorn that speaks both languages, both the nerd and the normal business speak. So that's the land I play in, and AI fits very well into that.
So you're one of those rare species who can talk business and tech, and must be in great demand because you're always looking for such people who can talk both sides. Yeah.
But I tell you, it's one of those things that are really exciting because there's always new stuff coming along, and I love solving business problems. So it's really rewarding where you make the technology fade into the background. That's sort of my goal.
And you also get the chance to see how your technology or the technology you advocate is really helping business because you can work with them to see how the vision is getting implemented in technology. So it's a good place to be at. I was reading through your LinkedIn profile and you wrote AI is here. So that's the sentence I actually picked. And I thought that AI had been in this universe for like quite a few decades. It's early 90s where we started listening the AI word. And then even the neural nets are here for such a long time. So what really makes you think that this time is for real and here we are in the real era of AI?
Well, I think it's always been real, but the audience that was able to access it and actually use it was much smaller back in. And, as things mature, it's sort of like an infant that we're going around and you get on a regular sleep schedule, then eventually you get off of it. It's one of those things. And the cost of it was very prohibitive back in the day to get in to do the machine learning that's necessary for it and everything else. So it's evolved to come on. But I look at things like I was writing an article that I'll be publishing here pretty soon about the smart toilet. And I was going, okay, look, I worked for Panasonic many years ago and they had those nice little toilet seats, which had the bidet and all that. And so, they were smart back then, but now they're smart now. CES had some, they were like $15,000. I'm like, ugh. But, so now it's really reaching the consumers where before it was sort of in the back end and the business type thing. If you look at Siri or Cortana or any of the agents that they rely on some artificial intelligence and based on past history and stuff. So it's actually hitting the consumer. And that's why I think it'll be a little stickier, but it's also going to be sort of hit and miss with the way things go on because, it's, as you were saying before we got on, 95% AI is annoying and 99% may be acceptable.
Yeah. I can still remember that talking some years back with Siri was actually annoying and now it has come a long way from that. So yeah.
She still gets annoying on occasion. just so you know.
Or probably we've got trained what to ask.
Exactly.
Yeah. So other than machine learning, what do you think actually is making this AI move forward? So we hear a lot about machine learning stuff. Other than machine learning, what is really getting into this, which is making this all AI going forward, the AI movement?
Well, some of it's like what we're doing at Microsoft. We're trying to democratize it to a certain extent, and look at like our cognitive services, which, we if you look at the Vision AI, so you can train it to sort of recognize images and things on the back. You don't have to do the model, right? You can take the back end of that on it. And before, when you hear the term model, that's sort of what makes everything works in the back end. And you had to have these data scientists, and you think I'm rare. Getting a data scientist that can sort of do these other things is even a rare individual still. So if you can put the baseline together, which brings accessibility to a model and being able to adapt it to what your use case is, then it makes it more accessible for people. It's more affordable. And it's sort of, you're removing that barrier of having to have that data scientist necessarily, or several of them, to do all that behind the scenes work for you. And you sort of go, okay, here, I can do this. Now, on the other side of that, it could limit you to a certain extent, and you could build upon what you have there, right? So if you're really one of those advanced ones, you can take, here's the base set. How do we make it really, really tuned to our specific use case?
Yeah, I guess with this transfer learning and all that thing, I mean, we can use learning of one model onto another, or what stuff like that. So that's I think an effort that a lot of people are putting in, is to democratize that whole AI thing. But while from your answer, I'm just curious that there's a lot of vocabulary, as you want to call them, about the people who are involved in AI. You can call them data scientists, there are machine learning people, there are AI, then there are insights, predictive. So if you can, I mean, for common people, or for someone naive, or maybe a layman, how do you see all these terms? I mean, all this jargon. Who's a data scientist? Who is an AI engineer? Who's a machine learning engineer? Who is a model developer? Yeah. I mean, how do you see them fit? And what is predictive analytics for that matter?
Yeah, I mean, so the title varies by company, varies by this. I mean, it's like if you used to have an auto mechanic, well, they could work on cars. You knew what they did. You wouldn't hire them to come do your AC repair. But now data scientist is a term that comes in. But I think that, the title's less important than the role that they play in trying to bring a solution to life. Are they the real, are they people that understand how to put a good model together? Here's the business things. Here's the outcome we need to have. Here's the bias we need to be aware of, right? And bias in these models and stuff is something that's really hard to work out. But it's important. If you're going to democratize it, we need to make sure that the results and stuff are unbiased. And by biased, I mean that it's, for example, like facial recognition. When you had early on with trying to get your iPhone to unlock people of color, it didn't work as reliably as it did, Caucasians. So, right. And it's not intentional, right? The bias is not intentional, but as we as humans, we sort of think a certain way. So getting it to where you're not having that's important. But again, that's not necessarily a data scientist role. That's not necessarily a machine learning role. That sort of spans that. Everybody needs to have a little bit of that. And my dog's going to hear. She's going to help me with that.
Is it? I hope he's real, not an AI dog.
Yeah, it's not an AI dog. I guarantee you, this one's real.
Okay.
So,
all right.
And I hope that answers your question with that. So
and there's a joke around that if it's on a PowerPoint, then it's data science, and if it's in Python, then it's a machine learning or an AI.
Yeah, so exactly.
Yeah, so I can see there, as the field is maturing, as the field is developing, there are a lot of roles that are coming into it, and I think it's going to go in particular in that direction, where people are just trying to figure out what everyone has in terms of their role, part to play, and it's going to clear up in the next few years. So moving towards the next part of our discussion. I mean, I have customers who are startups, I have customers who are small, medium businesses, and I have customers who are even enterprises. So when it comes to startups, we can all see that they typically come up with, they want to do a disruptive product or do something which is an AI first or an AI based product. How do you see small, medium businesses of today and enterprises of today taking advantage of AI? How can they really, how should they approach AI?
Yeah, I mean, AI is not a destination, right? Mm-hmm. It's and to sort of really be successful at doing this, and you need to have sort of a cultural change first. And this is the the discussion I have a lot of times is because, they say we want to use AI, and I ask them what for. I says, well, we want to improve our and you keep asking these questions, and you find out they really don't have a well thought out cultural answer of how they're going to shift the business to leverage AI to take market share, bring a new product to market, do something like that. I think the startups tend to have a little bit more, because that's what they do. They got to do one thing, and they've got a pretty fine idea. But if you've got established companies, we've got this, as Seth Godin likes to say, we've got these sunk costs in the way we've been doing business for years. And so how do we then translate and transition to something that we need to move forward, and we can use AI to make our products better, to make them more adaptable, to do new things, make them safer, whatever. You've got to say, here's what we want to go, and here's where we want it. We want to set that endpoint, that North Star, or whatever you want to call it. And then we say, okay, how can we transition to do that? And we can't do it the same way we got to where we're at. We've got to do something differently. Can we use AI? Can we use machine learning? Then it sort of gets built into the culture where now everybody sort of has access to these data. Data used to reside, and still does in a lot of cases, you probably know, in silos. The marketing department's got their customer data. The R&D department's got their data. Well, it's so disconnected, you can't really leverage the power that's out there. Everybody needs access to that data so they know, and they're all working off the same data set to move the ball forward. Working in silos, waiting for somebody to give you an Excel, PowerPoint, or a spreadsheet or something to get the data.
Don't you think it's like a chicken and egg problem? I mean, to build that culture, the top guys who can really write a check for you or can really sponsor an initiative, they want to see something working. And to make that something working, you need these sources together and to put this data into work to get some AI thing going. And that becomes a chicken egg problem. So you said it right. There needs to be potentially an AI culture, but how really, some of my customers struggle with should we want to do something about AI, but should we really treat it as a regular IT budget? Is it an innovation budget? Is it, how do we, so that's potentially my question, is that for a small medium business of today who has a real need of getting an automation done, getting a workflow automated, or getting some software made, how can they really, how should they treat AI? Should they treat it as an innovation budget? Should they treat it as a part of regular IT? And when it comes to enterprises, how they should really approach it? It's easier for them to allocate some innovation budget for them, but not maybe for a small, medium business. And as you said, AI needs a culture. So how should they think about it in budgetary terms, and how they can build the culture?
Well, so there's a couple things. And if you go back to the way IT evolved, right? So we're providing you a service, and you're going to get the service that we provide. Nothing else, right? So we're providing you these services as an employee. And we have the budget, we have the control. So it was more of a cost center experience with that. And so as you look at with AI and the ability to go outside of IT to access it, you could go to Google, you go to any of the people there, and if you've got a credit card, in a lot of cases, you can do some of this stuff. So what happens then is now I've got budget. Marketing usually has a big budget. So if marketing wants to come up with a product or a new service to do that, they've got the money to do it. When I'm trying, when I talk to IT people and all that, I say, do you want to be seen as a blocker or an enabler? Because the way things are going with cloud and all that, when you controlled access to everything, you had all that, you had the power, you had the budget, and you pretty much ran the business. Now the power sort of resides outside of that. And I try to encourage you want to see it as an enabler, but also protect the IP or the people or the other things. Because as you get the shadow IT outside, the people doing it, you don't necessarily have that protection and security and everything else that only a good, well-run IT shop can do. So it's changing the mindset to be, I don't want to block things. I want to enable things. I want you to make me say no, right? So if you go at it with that aspect of that, hey, let's see what we can do. And if you can answer these questions, I'm all for, I want to help you, right? So again, that's some of the culture change, getting out of that protecting everything and saying no to, I want to say yes. Help me say yes.
But that also demands a culture from the top management to work. How the top management think towards their IT? Do they really think of them as a servant, more of as an enabler, more of as an innovator? So unless and until as a CEO, I have a certain view of my IT. I don't think IT can change on its own. Would you agree with
Yeah.
that?
Well, yeah, I mean, they don't have the autonomy to change on their own. But if you have a sort of visionary CIO, CTO that's got this and can formulate and go talk to the rest of the business and say, hey, look, this is what I want to do. And this is where I think we can take. So they're taking more of a holistic outward approach rather than here's the thing and here's what I can control. So you're correct that they can't directly do it in most cases without CEO, board, the approval of that, but they can influence the direction of that. If I've got a CEO and I need to say I'm a public company, I need to make quarterly profits and stuff. That's a different discussion and it moves a little bit slower. But if you've got that forward thinking that understands technology, and here's where the most innovative people I find they have domain experience, and this is where the startup comes in. They have a lot of domain experience, but they also understand the technology that they would need to enable it. So they're thinking the other way around, as opposed to somebody that's got, hey, I can understand networks, directories, all these other things and all that, and I'm trying to understand what marketing does. That's sort of the wrong way to approach it from an innovation standpoint. But if you do it from the other way, hey, I understand the business, and here's what I need from an IT perspective to do what I want to do, that's a lot better. That's how you move the ball forward and you sort of unblock those silos.
So what I'm hearing is that probably an innovative CIO of a small mid business can talk to their C-level guys, other C-level guys, and present them with a potential business case. Probably kind of harass them, lure them to give them some budget so they can experiment. And I guess with AI bandwagon, everyone wants to be innovative. I think they can make a case. And then they can start experimenting with it and can show the work. So any particular area in your view where if you invest early, you can find some quick results, maybe prediction, maybe optimization, maybe something else? Where you feel is probably a quick ROI companies can get with their AI investment, or at least a confidence building stuff?
Yeah, the predictive analytics piece of that is huge, and that's something we've been trying to get. But as you get access to more data, you have the ability to do that. If we can predict, say, I was talking to somebody today, so I'm running a pizza restaurant and I'm running it in Philadelphia, say, or in this case, Kansas City, and I've got a barbecue place, and we're in the Super Bowl. I know that I can predict based on Super Bowls at other places that food and this is going to go up a lot. So I need to order. How much do I need to order? And it helps me do that. So it helps you make sense of all this massive amount of data that you have. And it can help you, again, if it's trained right, to say, look, okay, based on this, I need to order, a bunch of barbecue to fill everybody that is anticipated to come to this. And you're pulling data sources from Twitter. You're pulling data sources from all these other things. Hey, we have these meetups. We have these other things. So you're changing your addressable market on the fly. And with the power of machine learning, you can do that, where before you had the data, but it may take 100 people 16 years to decipher all the data to get to the information that you need.
Right. So you and I will kind of agree on that the time for small, medium businesses and organizations is now to start doing their work on AI if they really want to get something out of it in the next 2 to 3 years and want to stay ahead of their competition. I think that's what you and I would definitely agree on. Talking about enterprises, typically enterprises work, they build a center of excellence, they have a C-level guy looking at that. So I mean, a few years back, they've started building there's a new post that came in, which was CISO, Chief Information Security Officer, or they started building Salesforce Center of Excellence or Microsoft Center of Excellence or whatnot. So you think enterprise would take that route, maybe a AI Center of Excellence or Chief Artificially Intelligent Officer? I don't know what to call him, but how should enterprise approach that?
Yeah, and a lot of the enterprises, you have to get out of that mindset of we can build it better. We've always done, again, like I talked about earlier, I've got this data center that runs 5 nines and do these, and here's these services we have, and everything sort of has to come from here. So I think the center of excellence, and I use this example with some of my customers, is that it sort of resides beneath the C-level, which is coming up with, the executive suite that's coming up. Okay, we need to change our business model and do X, Y, Z. And then the director level down below, which is sort of managing each of these silos still. So you have this layer in between, and it's cloud. I like to call it a cloud center of excellence. And it doesn't. If you can understand cloud, then AI and all these other tools, you can leverage them. But if you don't if you don't upgrade your data estate, sort of get all that stuff up, if there's some blocking and tackling you need to do. But I think you're right with the center of excellence. You start there, and then you can evolve and go on. Okay, here's our AI as we build up that thing. So, okay, we need some AI to go do X, Y, Z. It's like you sort of break off R&D and you break off, quality control. You could do that later, but you've got to up everyone's game to get them stop thinking about the on-premises world, which they knew for all their life, and think of, okay, here's the cloud here. How can we leverage it? And how can we do things differently? And how can we upskill our people to take advantage of that? Because you do have a lot of people, and I'll just use our products, they ran Exchange. As you moved Office 365, we're managing the server piece, they still manage the users and stuff. How do you change that skill set? You don't need to be changing hard drives anymore. You don't need to be worrying about a storage array that goes bad. You're upping your skills now to adding value and doing things at scale to do that. So that's where it is. And as you lift people up to that center of excellence, now that's your new IT department. Once you get there, then you can sort of go up from there. So it's a journey, right? You've got to fill in that sort of middle layer, give people hope, give people direction that, hey, there's a better world here. You can do more things. We all get into IT because we like to do cool things until we realize that, no, we don't get to do cool things.
So, all right. So that's could be a structure where you can build that layer where people can do that kind of stuff. And I would like to tie it back with something you said earlier, that it's essentially enterprise can have a huge advantage out of this AI thing because they have the data, but they really need to build up a culture where their data kind of integrates and people and AI can start taking advantage of that. I think I was reading upon it, and I think the recent advances in AI is largely because there's a lot of digitization that has happened. And because of that digitization, that data is available on which AI can work. So I think that is a cultural change as well as a structural change that an organization needs. Organization spends a lot of budget and in the last decade, digital transformation has been a key word. So do you think it's AI being part of a digital transformation of an organization? It's something different, it's enabler. How does it fit in with all that digital transformation initiative within an organization?
Well, I think it's definitely a part of it. It should be a part of it. And it could be like maybe 3 steps up the ladder. Too many, you have to get clear between, and you mentioned it, am I considering digital transformation? I simply digitize all my analog things. I'll get rid of my file cabinets. Is that what I'm calling transformation? That's not really transformation. That's just shifting formats. That's shifting from an analog to a digital format. But as you said, now I've got some data and some other things there that I can work with and have access to because it's digital, right? So then I have to think about now as a transformation against a cultural thing. Okay, now we've got all this data out here, but we still have silos. How do I break down all these silos so we're all still working off the same data set? It's correct, it's validated. We don't, how do we get rid of the redundant stuff, the stuff that's conflicting, and get that all in one place? Modernize our data estate, as we like to call it. And then from there, now that we've got that, now AI can come in and go do these things. So that's the true transformation. Again, it's all part of what we talked about. It's part about shifting the mindset of IT not being a cost center and being an innovation center. It's the mindset of, hey, I want to get out of managing this server to I want to now do a service or a platform. And I want to raise everybody up to where, here's the cloud center of excellence. That's all part of the transformation if you look at it, because it's not a light switch. It is a journey that we go on, and it's going to be a continuous journey because of the pace of change and everything going on. We're constantly transforming. We're constantly moving this. It's not a finished product. AI is not a destination. And as you said earlier, it's getting better, and there's things we can do. Somebody's going to come up with the next algorithm that does things. Our quantum computing is going to put a big shift on this. So how do we prepare for that? That's sort of the next one.
Yeah. So summing it up, for an enterprise to have this kind of an AI initiative, I think, as you have said, it's a multi-step process. So first of all, it comes a digital transformation where you are changing formats. making your data digital. And then comes the mindset of breaking silos. That's a number 2 step, having a culture of common data sharing, obviously within your security and all that parameters.
Oh, yeah.
And then when you have their data, enabling your IT center as more as thinking of it more as a center of innovation and giving them a confidence to do work on it and do stuff on it that requires hundreds of humans previously or may not be possible. That's where they start seeing in AI. And obviously it's not a switch which you can turn overnight. It's really a journey. So this is, I guess, what you are suggesting the enterprise should take the AI journey.
Yeah, I would slide in there again, getting people with more business and domain expertise that can learn the technology or do that rather than trying to go the other way around. Because again, if you understand business, if I've been doing marketing for a bunch of years and I'm on top of it and that's my expertise, I can describe what I need from a technical perspective to help me bring to the next level rather than trying to teach me marketing, which, okay, I don't understand. I can't do that. So that's the if you can do all of that and go, then you've got a great foundation to go take over. And sort of like you said, enterprises have all this information, but it's sort of like I own a bunch of property. I'm from Texas, so we'll use that as an edge. I got a bunch of property with a bunch of oil underneath it, but I don't have any expertise in drilling. How do I get access to that? And that's where, as you're transforming, you can do that. And that's where some of the smaller companies are a little bit more nimble can do that. And the startups, they start from that. They start with an oil well looking for some place to drill.
I can relate it in a way. So as I told you earlier, that I also run a software services as well as a product company. So I mean, a couple of years back, as our company's overall mission for the next 2-3 years, we decided that we are going to train all our people in AI machine learning, no matter what they are doing, no matter what project they are doing. They need to, because I really see AI as a building block of a larger piece rather than something on its own. So that's what we said. I thought, look, stop looking at AI that you're going to make an AI product. See what you're doing and learn AI and machine learning and see how you can apply it to this thing. It's like more like you used to work on a single computer and then network programming came in and you start talking to multiple computers and so on and so forth. So right now AI is a building block that you're going to use in every single thing that you're making. So that's the approach at least we are taking over here. I think that's what you are advocating as well.
Yeah, I think that's a brilliant approach. That's the way to get on and truly transform things. Yeah.
So we are actually spending huge budgets and training every single one within the company on this AI thing. Coming back, now this transforms us to probably a third stage of our discussion, which is how individuals we talked about companies, how individuals should approach AI. I mean, we already know there's a huge shortage of software engineers everywhere, and now there's an AI and everyone wants to do that, and there are existing business that needs to be run. So how engineers, how people who want to learn this should approach it on their own? What are their steps? What are their career paths? What are opportunities for them, in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, I've taught myself a lot of that. We have some internal training, but a lot of the stuff is I get, and I just, I go in and play. I go do things. I read about things that are like, we're doing Databricks and these different things now to really scale to do things. So how do I stay up on all these technologies? It's out there. You got Udemy, it's got some good courses. You've got, there's thousands of books out there. A lot of the universities are doing this as well. And it's sort of educate yourself. And I would encourage, so that's, the nerds will get it. We'll evolve. We'll live in, if you're really curious about it, regardless of what field you're in, you want to say, hey, how can I leverage AI or machine, whatever in that. But if you're the business person out there and you're just a little bit of, technology, you like that, those are the people, getting back to that, get out there and learn that language, because you're going to be, again, speaking as if you can talk that business and technical type thing and marry those two things to a thought idea or a big grander project, you're going to be in demand. You're going to be some that people want to talk to, need to talk to, and can really change the world. And that's sort of the people that I really look forward to. Don't get afraid because it's technology. You can learn technology. It's getting easier to do. I can't program anything, but I can look at Python and I can understand it. So I may actually be able to do a hello world one of these days.
So I think sometimes these guys may have an advantage, because if you had been in finance or something else, you may have been developing these models on Excel and whatnot for half of your life. It's just that now you've got better ways, different algorithms, but you already understand the business, you already understand the need, and you were limited by your manual process that now can all be automated. So I think they may have an advantage actually because they know the domain, they have been doing the models. It's just that if they know a bit of technology, they can be in real demand. So I think that could really be a path for an individual. Coming to the overall competitive landscape, Microsoft is doing, tell us more about how Microsoft is doing in AI and Microsoft versus all the FANG companies. I mean, there must be AI wars around and people poaching each other's people and how it's unfolding.
Well, it's an interesting time to be around. That's for sure. I look at the stuff that we're doing from, and one of the, we have this term AI for good, and we're really trying to use and leverage, again, commoditize this to where we can do some positive change in the world and go to do that. Not that anybody else is doing anything bad. I don't want to get into that comment, but our focus is on, okay, how do we can bring this to solve problems, to do real things? I mean, if you look at our Office suite, just for example, we use things in, if you got an iPhone or something, we have an app called Seeing AI that you can download that actually helps people with vision problems use their phone to see what's going around in the room, right? It'll say there's a middle-aged man with no hair sitting on a red shirt that doesn't know what he's talking about if it's looking at me. But it's something that, again, it's free. We can go ahead and do that. So that's one of the things we have. We have Translator built into PowerPoint so that you can actually, if you're doing it in a different language, I can be speaking, it picks it up the microphone and does real-time translation, which is really pretty good. Or it's got things now called a presentation coach, because we all know death by PowerPoint. We've all been in those things on that one. Now it will use artificial intelligence to say, hey, don't read the slide. It can tell when you're reading the slide. So it helps you coach these. So these are some of the things we're bringing out to do that. I mean, there's broader things that go on that, that are bigger, impactful things and that I'm not really don't know enough about to share that with you. But I mean, the front line, we're trying to put it into everyday life where it makes people's lives better. But more importantly, as you said to that finance person that understands that it took a lot of time to do those models manually, that now he or she has time to do something more. What's the next phase from this financial model I can do? I don't have to worry about, as I mentioned, we started, I want technology to fade into the background so that you can do the pure thoughts in the business. And that's where you really shine, and that's where you really make innovation.
So in terms of Microsoft, I was reading something back, Satya's book, Hit Refresh, where he transformed Microsoft to more of a cloud company. Mm-hmm. Is it going to be a hit refresh again to be more of an AI company, or is AI going to be a part of an overall picture?
Yeah, AI is part of, as we talked, there's things that you can do from a cloud, from a scale perspective that you really is cost prohibitive or hard to do on premises in the traditional model. But I've been at Microsoft 19 years, so I've been sort of through the highs and the lows of things like that. And it is a cultural thing. It's about, he also has a comment that, hey, if you want to do cool things, don't work for us. We want to help other people do cool things. So it's somewhat of a servant. If you've read the book, you understand he comes from that servant point of view, that we want to help customers to go on and do more and do the things that they really want. We want to fade into the background. We really just so want to say, here's a great thing that you've done. Yeah, you did it on our stuff, but we should shine the light on you because you did good stuff.
Mm-hmm. No, that's so. That takes us to now with everybody is jumping on this AI bandwagon. So that also takes us to some ethical and future issues. I mean, in the last 1 week, all this noise about Clearview. So what's your thoughts on that? I mean, thousands and billions of photos scrapped from the web, and then AI put to that. I mean, how you see that?
Well, I was talking to somebody the other day, and we all have this fear that, if AI comes in, it turns up being the Terminator and Skynet comes up. Well, AI is already here. You can't put it back in there, and it's how you use it, how companies put it together. That has to be the part of it, and it's the ethical piece of this that you have to sort of evaluate. Just because we can do it, should we do it? If you look at, say you've got an emerging company, an emerging market where you've got one factory in town that employs, half the population. And now we want to come in and put some robotics and AI and stuff that could displace everybody. Is that the right thing to do? Because now we've crashed an economy. is that the right thing to do that? So, I mean, and that's just simply a theoretical one that I come up with, but those are the questions you need to ask as you're doing those things, at the end of the day.
I'm just chipping in over here. So I was hearing Andrew Ng, and he was saying that probably we are decades or maybe even centuries away from AGI, artificial general intelligence, versus artificial narrow intelligence. Mm-hmm. And we are not even close to really making a system that can be smarter than humans. But on the other hand, there are Elon Musk and Stephen Hawking who mm-hmm. sometimes term AI as an existential threat to humans. Yeah. So which side of the camp are you?
Oh, it depends on the day sometimes, depending on what you read.
So what's it for today?
I like to think that we're on, it's the good side. It's more like the Star Trek, hey, we have all these things that help humans be better and do different things, as opposed to the Terminator type thing. So, right. but it's right. Every
Terminator kind of thing is possible today, in a decade, in a few decades. With the state of AI that we have today?
I think it has to be how much goes on behind the scenes from people with a nefarious purpose in mind that goes on. I think it's a long ways off. If we just sort of took a hard left-hand turn and that's the direction we went, I think it's still a long ways off. As we were talking about before, trying to get the meeting scheduled right, we were sort of off and all that. That's a pretty simple type thing to do. So if you can't execute on that 99.999% of the time, the chances of you taking over the world and doing everything else is pretty slim. And it gives you're saying is humans develop this stuff, and humans are all flawed. And, sooner or later, even at scale, these flaws come out. So I would rather encourage people to do good things with it than necessarily spend a lot of time worrying about the bad things. I want to keep my eye on it. It's sort of like when you're snow skiing and you're sort of off next to the cliff. I'm not worried about falling off, but I'm going to keep my eye on it, right? I just want to sort of say, okay, it's over there. What's going on? And then I can go on down there and not worry about going sailing off to my death.
So that's probably a far future. So talking about the near future, you think the future of AI is kind of on the cloud, on the edge systems, or a hybrid of the two? Where do you see AI?
Well, I think it's going to be a hybrid of the two, because if you look at the IoT piece, and this is where there's a lot of work that can be done. These smart buildings, smart roads, all autonomous vehicles, all these other things that are out on the edge. You need the cloud to power that, but the other devices could reside on-premise. But that's also the biggest security risk we have as well, too. Because, while as an IT guy, I can patch all my Windows systems or whatever things on that to keep them up to date and I have a little bit more control. Some of these IoT controls have been out there and there's no built-in antivirus, there's no built-in things to do that if somebody really could want to get in, and this does keep me up a little bit at night, as the power grid or different things like that. How much is dependent on that, and how are we securing and updating it and thinking like this? Goes back to a Tom Clancy novel where everything, individual components are fine, but when you put them together, the firmware comes up and it turns into this nefarious device. So that's I think the area for biggest impact for the largest population, and automating a lot of things that right now are very manual, right? So and trying to take some of that human factor out of that, because we're not permanent. But we have to think about it also from a security standpoint. How do we protect it? How do we make sure that nobody's taking it over to go do something? So that's I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. So if I'm a startup today, or I'm a business today, what would you advise in terms of any 2 or 3 industries or areas where I can go and use the power of AI to create a disruption where it's most developed or having a bleeding edge right now?
Again, the IoT piece of that, how are we automating these routine mechanicals, making them better? That's definitely a big growth area as we look to go in for this next industrial revolution. But nothing replaces a good idea on how to make people's lives better. I would say still customer service. If you could do anything to improve customer service at any place, that would be a killer application of that, right? So how do I
Yeah,
How do I do
and
that?
going to quadruple or I mean exponentially grow your revenues anyway. I mean, if you can have an
Yeah.
awesome customer service, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's because right now, like I said, 95% of if your AI at 95% is frustrating, and I don't want I don't want to have that. How do I
Even
get
if
that
you're not in AI,
99%?
it's frustrating anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's areas
And
that I'd look at.
and you feel that, I mean, what Microsoft is doing on the quantum side, the whole this quantum computing thing is going to help AI big time with the speed and all the things that we have.
It just because of the speed and stuff, but I would sort of go back to, so we've got on the cusp of this quantum. If you open the discussion with AI has been around for a long time. So I think what you do is you shift the whole timeline backwards, where now you've got this quantum, but it's very few access to very few and small people can do things with it because of cost and simply the complexity of it. And then that sort of sets us up to this whole next 20 years of that. What's that look like when quantum comes on to go do it? Because things like encryption, if you got quantum, I've seen things goes around to your encryption to your bank now it's gone right away. Yeah. So if you get that into the criminals' hands very easily, that's not a good thing. So I think it's back where if we're back at the starting days of AI with quantum right now, right? It's in a very few people doing it. It's still sort of touch and go. We have to go from a binary programming language to now it can be multiple states at the same time, right? And so there's a thought process, and we have to train a whole bunch of people to think that way and to program that way. So it will change. It's not going to be from like AI now to the masses is that it's not quite a commodity stage, but it's getting close. Mm-hmm. Quantum computing is not anywhere near a commodity stage.
Right. So I mean, the future may be from a decade or some years from now, where we'll be talking about democratizing the quantum computing, and then on top of the AI thing. I mean, that's how I've seen the world working, and then probably. No, but as you said, I think you said it pretty nicely that this quantum thing and with this AI thing, we are now have like next 10, 20 years in our sight what we will be doing, and we now have a path, and probably once we're halfway through that path, we'll have the next path. So that's good. Anything, and as we've now moved towards the end of this discussion, I mean, anything you would like to share with our listeners or viewers or about AI, anything that you would like to share?
Yeah, don't be afraid of it, but also trust but verify. If I had to go to do that, it's an interesting place to be, but AI is a tool. It doesn't replace a good business model or a good business plan, a good creative genius. Hey, I want to invent the next XYZ. That doesn't replace that. It helps enable it and make it much faster and probably much better, so your time to market's shorter. But don't do AI as a destination. It's a nice companion to bring, but shouldn't ever be the destination.
All right. That sounds great. So Doug, thank you very much for being with us for this podcast and interview session. I really enjoyed it. I hope you also enjoyed it the way I did. And I hope everyone who listens to it or look at it, they also get something good out of it. So thank you very much again for being with us, and I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Doug and Umair, for your valuable time and offering insights on how businesses can incorporate AI into their digital transformation strategy. Thanks for listening to this episode by BetterTech. If you enjoyed this podcast, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to share it across your favorite social networking platform. We look forward to bringing you the latest industry news in our next episode. In the meantime, take a look at our other episodes and hit subscribe with the links in the description box below so that you don't miss out on the latest in tech.